This time, the mistress Louise found was very fierce. After getting pregnant, she came to the company and caused a scene. Everyone looked at me. Someone quietly advised her. You should leave quickly, otherwise, Mrs. Louise will beat you until you miscarry. She's been crazy for a long time. Louise, who had rushed over, protected his mistress behind him and looked at me with eyes full of wariness. If you want to hit someone, hit me. Don't touch her. The entire company was terrifyingly quiet. Everyone was waiting for my reaction, waiting for me to become hysterical like before, to smash everything to pieces. But I turned and left. As I walked, I admired the manicure I had just gotten. A simple dusty rose color, very suitable for tonight's date. I was dressed so beautifully today, I absolutely couldn't let anything ruin it. Chapter 1. I had just walked out of the conference room when a woman's voice sounded behind me. Excuse me, do you know where Jessica is? Someone answered in a low voice. You need an appointment to see Jessica. The woman's voice immediately rose, carrying a bit of fierce confidence. I'm Louise's lover. I have something to discuss with her. It was strange, her voice wasn't loud. But as soon as those words came out, the entire hall instantly fell silent. The air seemed to freeze, and every gaze silently turned toward me. The crowd automatically parted to create a path, and that woman immediately understood. She walked straight toward me. Her footsteps stopped behind me, bringing with them the scent of perfume. You're Jessica? I turned around and calmly looked her over. She was very thin, a tight white dress wrapped around her body, making her look even more frail. Only her bulging belly stood out sharply, like an enormous fruit growing out of season on a slender flower stem. She lifted her face to look at me, her expression stubborn. I came to tell you that Louise is mine now. Things between you two ended long ago. He said it himself. He gets annoyed just seeing you. If you still have any shame, get lost on your own and stop clinging to him. I almost laughed. I'm clinging to him? You're still pretending. She seemed to be set on fire, her voice turning sharp. Last night, he clearly promised to accompany me to my prenatal checkup. But with just one phone call from you, he rushed back eagerly. Besides using the title of wife to tie him down, what else can you do? Do you know how much he despises you? So that was it. No wonder Louise was so late last night on our 5th wedding anniversary. It turned out he had gone to accompany this little mistress to her prenatal checkup. I raised my hand, wanting to tuck a strand of hair beside my cheek behind my ear, but she suddenly took a step back, both hands tightly protecting her belly, and screamed, "What are you trying to do? In front of everyone, you want to hit a pregnant woman?" I looked at her movement and tugged at the corner of my lips. Since you've already pinned that charge on me, wouldn't I be bearing the reputation for nothing if I didn't do something? Her face turned pale, and she staggered back to the edge of the crowd. Someone quietly advised her. You should leave quickly. Jessica previously beat several of Louise's mistresses until they miscarried. She's nearly crazy. You can't win against her. Leave quickly before she makes a move. The girl hesitated for a few seconds. Then, as if gathering her courage, she stepped forward again and stared at me. You've committed so many sins. You'll receive retribution. She paused, and her smile stabbed over brightly. You've already received your retribution. You love Louise so much, but he doesn't love you at all. This is your retribution. Chapter 2. All around us came the sound of people sharply sucking in their breath. I looked at her quietly. This girl was a little different from the ones Louise had found before. Most of those women had been pitiful little white flowers, but she was like a wild rose with thorns standing all over her body. Fierce, direct, full of aggression. She used the fact that Louise didn't love me to attack me. But this tactic was far too clumsy. These words had already been repeated too many times by all kinds of women around Louise. My heart had long since been worn into a thick layer of callus. It no longer hurt or itched. But she really shouldn't have come to bother me. I had originally been in a very good mood today. Freshly done nails, freshly done makeup, and an appointment with someone important. But after she stirred things up, that little bit of good mood vanished like smoke blown away by the wind. I sighed silently in my heart. These women were always like this. They found me, then pestered me. Either they showed off how much Louise loved them, or they earnestly advised me to let go. But they never listened to the truth. I had stopped loving Louise long ago. They only kept coming up to me, disturbing my peace again and again. At first, it gave me a headache, but later, I discovered that a single slap could solve it. They would whimper and hide in Luis's arms, gaining the attention and pity they wanted, and then finally be willing to leave me alone. My gaze fell on her face, a very small, delicate face, with fair skin. This kind of face was very convenient to slap. It didn't require much effort. So, without any hesitation, I raised my hand and slapped cleanly toward that face. She was so frightened that she suddenly shut her eyes, her body shrinking into a ball, but the expected sound of a slap did not ring out. My wrist was clamped tightly in midair by a large hand, the force so great that my bones hurt. Jessica! It was Luis. Chapter 3. Luis completely shielded the girl behind him, and the way he looked at me was filled with wariness. Jessica, if you want to hit someone, hit me. Don't touch her. Before his words had even fallen, the girl began to sob. Her voice carried a crying tone, yet every word was clear. What right does she have to hit you, Luis? She's clearly the one clinging to you and refusing to let go. Refusing to divorce no matter what. You two haven't had a married life for a long time. You don't even want to touch her. You've wanted a divorce for ages. She's the one delaying you. Luis immediately released my wrist, turned around, and used the pad of his finger to wipe the tears from Alice's face. Don't cry. Don't cry. It's bad for the baby. I can get divorced. I'll definitely find a way to end the marriage. Alice's shoulders trembled slightly from crying, and she naturally leaned into his arms, her voice muffled against his chest. My heart just aches for you, aches for all the grievances you suffered in that marriage. Luis let out a low laugh. I'm not wronged. As long as you give birth to the child safely, I won't feel wronged at all. The girl broke into a smile through her tears, letting out a small, satisfied laugh. The entire hall was so quiet that the sound of the air conditioning could be heard. Everyone looked at them, then looked at me. Scrutiny, sympathy, or simply the excitement of watching a good show. I could even catch a few extremely low whispers. Why isn't Jessica making a move this time? She's waiting to unleash something bigger. I think the child in this mistress's belly is in danger today. I shook my head helplessly. I had dressed so beautifully today. I absolutely couldn't let anything get ruined. I lifted my foot, about to leave. A clear, steady male voice came from behind me. Luis, what fine spirits you're in. The crowd parted once again, and a tall, upright figure slowly walked over, surrounded by several senior executives. The man's gaze first landed on me, his eyes dark and unreadable. After a few seconds, he turned toward Luis. A trace of barely noticeable embarrassment flashed across Luis's face. He stepped forward, extended his hand toward Noah, and spoke in a noticeably polite tone. Noah, I'm sorry you had to see this. Noah glanced indifferently at his outstretched hand and did not shake it. Mr. Luis has no shortage of female confidants around him. Do you still have the energy to handle company affairs? Luis's hand froze in midair, and his expression instantly grew a little uglier. The shareholders beside him immediately forced dry laughs and tried to smooth things over. Noah is joking. Our Luis simply has too much personal charm. That's also a kind of ability. Haha. I had no interest in watching this farce any longer, so I turned to leave. Jessica! Luis called out to stop me from behind. Where are you going? Noah is your university classmate. Whether emotionally or reasonably, you should stay and entertain an old classmate. I didn't stop walking and only replied lightly. I have something to do. Noah's voice sounded behind me. I won't be attending tonight's welcome dinner. I have a date with my girlfriend, so I'll leave first. Luis picked up the conversation. Congratulations. Noah! Then another day. Another day brings sister-in-law along, and we'll have a simple meal together. Noah gave two soft laughs of unclear meaning and did not answer. His gaze briefly paused on my back for an instant, and then he took the lead, walking toward the same exit as me. Chapter 4. I pulled open the car door, and a figure immediately covered me. An overwhelming kiss fell, carrying an unquestionable force, plundering my breath. Just before I felt I was about to pass out from lack of oxygen, he finally let me go. In the darkness, faint light filtered in from outside the car. In the man's eyes surged dark currents I couldn't understand. His large hands stroked my back again and again, helping me calm my rapid breathing. I leaned against his chest and quietly adjusted my breath. Only when my breathing finally evened out did I speak, my voice lazy. "All right, go on your date with your girlfriend. I'll go home first." Above my head came his deep voice, almost amused from anger. "Do you not know who my girlfriend is?" I raised my head and met his gaze in the dim light, my tone calm. "No, I already let you be my lover. Do you still want a proper title? All the good things in the world can't belong to you alone." Not only was he not angry, he even let out a low laugh, his arms tightening slightly. The women around Luis changed one batch after another. "Are you planning to keep wasting your life with him like this? Is it worth it?" "It's not worth it," I answered very quickly, without the slightest hesitation. "But I won't divorce him." Only the sound of our breathing remained in the car. After quite a while, he finally spoke. "In terms of looks, family background, wealth, even my feelings for you, in what way am I inferior to him?" "Jessica, I don't understand." I laughed softly, my fingertips playing with the button of his suit. "I want the company. I want money. For those two things, I can endure this marriage with Luis." This was the first time I had ever spoken my true thoughts to anyone else. It had nothing to do with love, and there was no reluctance left. Only the barest reality remained. I wanted money. All those years, I accompanied Luis as he built everything from nothing. The company was almost entirely propped up by me. Later, I retreated behind the scenes and handed the company fully over to him to manage. Not because I was incapable, but because I trusted him. Both of us were orphans in our lives. We had only each other, but reality told me that, in the end, my trust had been misplaced. Later, when my feelings had been worn away and I was exhausted, there was even a time when I had been forced to the brink and thought about leaving with nothing just for peace. But I couldn't accept it. Why should the empire I had given everything to build only be split in half at most after divorce? I would rather drag things out in this mud than watch with my own eyes as what belonged to me was divided between two bastards. Noah raised an eyebrow. Then he laughed softly, a faint vibration coming from his chest. "Little money grubber." He lowered his head, his forehead pressed against mine, his voice very low. "I'll help you." This time, I was the one who kissed him first. The car slowly started and drove out of the underground garage. As we passed the exit, the headlights swept over Luis standing by the roadside and the mistress leaning in his arms. Luis looked over instinctively, through the car window. I was being kissed by Noah until my mind was in chaos. Chapter 5. I pushed open the door to my home. Noah said that last night had been the 100th day of our relationship and insisted on stuffing a Harry Winston diamond ring into my hand. The ring box was heavy in my bag. I had to go home first and put it away properly. The light in the entryway wasn't on, and the living room was somewhat dark. When I was changing my shoes, I finally noticed a figure sitting on the sofa. Before I could see clearly, that figure spoke first, his voice hoarse from a sleepless night. "Where did you go last night?" It was Luis. I frowned slightly, not understanding why he was asking. Only belatedly did I realize that he seemed to have waited all night. We had long since gotten used to confronting each other with silence, so I didn't answer and walked straight toward the bedroom. "Sign it." His voice sounded behind me. I turned back. On the coffee table lay a document, black words on white paper. It was a divorce agreement. "I won't sign." My voice had no fluctuation. He gave a mocking laugh and stood up. "Jessica, what exactly are you trying to gain by clinging on like this? She's pregnant and needs a proper status. Even if you won't think for us, can't you think for an innocent child?" "Child?" I repeated softly, raising my eyes to look at him. "At your pace. In 2 months, won't there be another woman and another child needing status? Are you going to marry every one of them and register every one of them into the household?" His brows knitted tightly, but his tone softened a little. "She's different. Alice is an orphan. She only has me." "An orphan?" I repeated the word, and a trace of absurdity rose in my heart. Was I not an orphan too? Back then, who was it under the locust tree in the orphanage, eyes red, saying to me, "Jessica, we're both orphans in this world. We only have each other. Don't abandon me"? Because of that one sentence, I gave up the chance to be adopted and chose to stay in the orphanage with him. Seeing that I remained unmoved, Luis sighed and explained further. She has congenital long QT syndrome. I froze for a moment. A congenital hereditary heart disease. Emotional fluctuations and overexertion could trigger sudden death. The orphanage didn't have healthy baby boys. Luis had been abandoned precisely because of this illness. In the early days of starting the business, so many late nights were spent with me alone guarding the office because he couldn't overwork himself. I suddenly laughed. This disease makes childbirth extremely risky. She could very likely die on the delivery table. When you were having fun without protection, why didn't you think she might die on the operating table? I did it willingly. A figure rushed out from the corner. The girl held her belly, her chin raised high. You haven't been able to give birth to a child all these years. This is Luis's only child. Since you know I'm risking my life, you should sign the divorce papers and make me feel better. That would be good for both me and the baby. Hurry up and sign. I calmly watched her. Alice. That was her name. Her expression changed slightly. You investigated me? I didn't answer her question. When you were little, you said you wanted to become a scientist. Has your dream come true now? She froze. I smiled faintly. I still remember you. She was a girl Luis and I had once sponsored. In my memory, the little girl hiding behind the director had bright, sparkling eyes when she received the encyclopedia I gave her. Timidly, she said, "Thank you, Jessica. I want to become a scientist in the future." It was also her who had once innocently held Luis's and my hands and said, "I wish Jessica and Luis will be together forever." The clear eyes from the past now had nothing left in them but muddy desire. What scientist? Alice sneered. Now I only want to be with Luis. Back then, you said you would always sponsor me. Now give Luis to me. That would be the best sponsorship. I smiled slightly. I won't sign. If you don't give my child a proper status, I'll die in front of you. Go ahead. My tone was calm. You have heart disease anyway. You won't live long. Just as I turned to leave, Alice suddenly rushed up and grabbed my arm. During the struggle, the Harry Winston diamond ring slipped from my fingers and rolled onto the floor with a clear clink. My cashmere coat was also pulled down, revealing the torn white shirt underneath. Then everyone froze. The marks Noah had kissed all over my body last night were exposed just like that in the morning light. Chapter 6. On the hospital bed. Luis's face was pale. The smell of disinfectant in hospitals always made people uncomfortable. It was all Noah's fault for going too far last night. Those marks couldn't be covered at all. After Luis saw them, he had a heart attack on the spot and collapsed. The liquid in the 4-bottle dripped down drop by drop, and my patience was also being exhausted minute by minute. Just as I was about to turn and leave, my wrist was suddenly grabbed hard. I turned back and met a pale face. Luis had woken up. The first thing he did was roughly roll up my sleeve. Under the light, the ambiguous red marks were painfully glaring. He closed his eyes, his chest heaving violently, and spoke through gritted teeth. What exactly is going on? I said lightly, mosquito bites. It's almost winter now. If you're going to lie to me, at least use your brain. I sighed helplessly. Fine, fine. Dog bites. Is that good enough? Jessica. He propped himself up, his voice trembling with anger. Do you take me for an idiot? What exactly are these? His grip was very strong, squeezing my wrist until it hurt. I forcefully shook off his hand. Are you insisting that I say it out loud just so you can humiliate yourself? You're clearly the one who cheated. You're the one who wronged me. He almost roared. How am I humiliating myself? The moment his words fell, he froze first. I laughed softly. No wonder we could become husband and wife. Even our reactions when facing a partner's infidelity were exactly the same. Many years ago, I had also found similar marks on him. At that time, I cried and questioned him, only to receive his cold laugh as he said I was humiliating myself. Now that our roles were reversed, even the lines were exactly the same. The hospital room fell into dead silence, with only the regular sound of the 4 dripping. After a long while, he spoke in a hoarse voice. Break things off with him, and I can pretend nothing ever happened. Why? I asked calmly in return. Why should I break things off with him? He won't make me divorce you. It doesn't affect the relationship between us. Luis's eyes instantly reddened. Jessica, what do you mean? You want an open marriage? Dream on. I was slightly stunned. Those words, however, gave me an idea. You're right. I turned around, my tone calm. Since neither of us can stay faithful, we might as well establish an open marriage. You play your way, I play mine, and we don't interfere with each other. Luis abruptly sat up from the hospital bed, the foretube shaking violently. He gripped my wrist tightly. Jessica, do you know what you're saying? I forcefully shook off his hand, amused by his reaction. What's wrong with that? Isn't it just doing what you've been doing all these years? This is completely different, he said through gritted teeth. I'm a man. I'm the one taking advantage. You're a woman. You'll be played in circles by those men outside. I gently pulled my hand free and straightened the sleeve he had wrinkled. My choice. My consequences. No need for you to worry. I had just taken one step when he suddenly hugged me tightly from behind. His burning breath fell beside my ear. If you deliberately found someone to make me angry, then you succeeded. I promise you, from now on, there won't be any other women. As soon as his words fell, the door to the hospital room was pushed open. Alice stood at the doorway, her eyes red, holding a prenatal checkup report in her hand. Her gaze paused for a moment on the way he was holding me, and her voice trembled. Luis. Then Luis let go of me. Chapter 7. Alice's gaze fell on me. Jessica, is it because Luis hasn't touched you lately that you got so desperate you went out to find some dirty trash to satisfy your needs? She sighed. That's pretty disgusting. I turned to Luis, my tone calm. Did you hear that? Your little mistress said you're disgusting. In the future, don't go out looking for those improper women to satisfy your desires just because I won't let you touch me. Then I looked at Alice. Dirty trash? How could you say that about yourself? Women should know how to respect and love themselves. After all, since you grew up without parents to love you, you should learn even more to love yourself. Alice froze, and her eyes suddenly reddened. Jessica, how can you use the fact that I have no parents to hurt me? Yes, no one has ever truly loved me. She looked at Luis, her voice choking. I thought I had finally found true love. But now I understand. It turns out no one really loves me. This is my retribution. I hurt the benefactor who once sponsored me. This is heaven's punishment for me, and I accept it. She gently stroked her belly, her tone firm. It's fine. I'll have my own child. I'll give him all my love and let him have the warmth I never received. I stepped forward and reached out to lightly touch her abdomen. Then you'd better first find the child a legitimate father. Don't let the child be born without proper registration. Alice stepped back and protected her belly, looking at Luis. Luis, I don't want my child to have no fatherly love in the future. Luis's expression was complicated. After a long silence, he said in a low voice, that won't happen. Alice let out a sigh of relief. Luis, before you fainted, you said you wanted to divorce Jessica. The lawyer contacted me just now and said that if we can prove Jessica cheated, it will be very favorable to you. Do you still want a divorce? Luis fell silent. For some answers, silence was enough. Alice understood what he meant. She lowered her head, her voice so soft it was almost inaudible. You should rest properly first. I won't disturb you. The doctor said I need to rest quietly to protect the baby. So I'll leave first. She turned to leave, the sob in her voice slipping through her teeth. Luis panicked and hugged her from behind. Don't cry. He turned to me. Don't leave yet. I'll have the lawyer come over now. We'll sign the agreement here. I sneered. Fine, let's sign. Luis was clearly stunned for a moment. The lawyer arrived very quickly. I took the document and signed my name without the slightest hesitation. But Luis still didn't put pen to paper. I laughed softly. Luis, sign it. Isn't this exactly what you wanted? He looked up at me, and finally, slowly signed his name. Then he said, after the 30-day cooling-off period is over, don't forget to go handle the procedures on time. I almost laughed out loud. Again, he always liked to perform this divorce act in front of his new lovers. He was certain that I wouldn't sign, using this method again and again to both appease his mistresses and maintain the practical benefits brought by our marriage. In the end, he gained the image of deep love and helplessness, while I became the villain obstructing true love. At the very beginning, I had been tortured by this marriage until I was in unbearable pain, and I had signed a few times, but he was clearly the one who initiated the divorce. Yet during the cooling-off period, he always found various excuses to withdraw the application. Later, I finally understood why he wouldn't divorce. Because he couldn't accept me receiving even the slightest benefit in the division of property. Since the divorce couldn't happen anyway, I stopped bothering to sign. And he was also happy to use the excuse that his wife refused to divorce to continue playing the role of a helpless, deeply affectionate man outside. In the corner, Alice stood frozen in place. Children who came out of orphanages were always especially sensitive. She had clearly noticed that this time, Luis wasn't as determined to divorce as he had been yesterday, but she couldn't understand why. I walked to her side and kindly reminded her, "He and I won't really get divorced. You'd better make plans early." "I don't believe it." I shook my head and turned to leave. If Luis and I truly wanted to divorce, one of us had to be willing to leave with nothing, but neither of us would be willing to become that person. After all, both of us loved money, so we could only stay entangled like this. Chapter 8. For the sake of money and personal interests, Luis and I still had to play the role of a loving couple in public. Tonight's business banquet was one we attended together. Under the crystal chandelier, we stood side by side, accepting compliments from all sides, our smiles appropriate, our gestures intimate, perfect, like custom-made dolls. After several rounds of drinking, Luis, who had always been restrained, was actually a little drunk. He sat alone in a corner, drinking one glass of whiskey after another. Someone sat down in the empty seat beside him. Luis raised his eyes, his gaze hazy with drunkenness. "Noah?" Noah swirled his wine glass and smiled slightly. "Last time, that little lover of yours caused such a stir at the company. Your wife didn't make a scene with you?" "Her?" Luis gave a bitter laugh and downed another glass. "She stopped making scenes long ago. I found so many women for no other reason than to test her bottom line. Only in the end did I realize she simply didn't care anymore." Drunk people were the easiest to get the truth out of. A trace of coldness flashed through Noah's eyes. Luis seemed completely unaware and kept talking to himself. "Do you know what type of man Jessica likes?" Noah tapped his fingertips lightly on the table, looking as if he were thinking. "Good-looking, nice voice, gentle personality, devoted to her. Isn't that me?" Luis blurted out, then froze and abruptly looked at Noah. "How do you know so clearly? Could it be?" The corner of Noah's lips lifted slightly. "Guess." Luis narrowed his drunken eyes. "Could it be, you know who the person she likes is?" A trace of disappointment flashed through Noah's eyes, and he murmured, "Far away on the horizon, yet right before your eyes." "No need to hint at me." Luis waved his hand. "I know she loves me deeply. Someone as traditional as her is probably just deliberately trying to make me angry." Noah sneered without speaking. Luis suddenly remembered something. "Noah, why didn't you bring your girlfriend?" "She thinks I'm not presentable enough." Luis laughed. "Noah, a man like you, how could you not be presentable enough? Your girlfriend's standards are too high. Let me meet her sometime. I'll help persuade her and guarantee she'll be utterly devoted to you." "I'm the third party," Noah said calmly. Luis smiled knowingly. "I understand. Men, after all, occasionally changing flavors. Spend more money to coax her, and she'll willingly be your mistress." Noah smiled and repeated word by word. I am the third party. I'm the mistress." Luis's smile froze on his face. After a long while, he patted Noah on the shoulder. "True love is innocent. I wish you an early promotion to official status." "Thanks for the blessing." Luis staggered to his feet and left. Noah carried a delicate plate of cake and slowly walked up the spiral staircase. I had already been waiting for a while in the shadows on the second floor. "This is the good show you were talking about?" I took the cake. Noah didn't answer and pulled me into the lounge beside us. The moment the door closed, he lowered his head and bit my neck. His voice muffled. "It seems Luis still has feelings for you." How ridiculous. He gritted his teeth. He wants to keep the red flag at home standing while colorful flags flutter outside. Now what is he pretending to be devoted for? I found it funny. "What are you getting angry about? If he turns back and begs you to stay, will you soften?" His voice lowered. "After all, when the first love cries, the current one works for nothing. In your eyes, am I that stupid?" Noah sighed softly. I'm the stupid one. I'm not even as good as Alice. What do you mean? When she becomes the third party, at least she has a title and a child. And there was a rare grievance in his voice. I have nothing. He began obsessing over a title again, his tone becoming urgent. Why won't you divorce him? I want to hear the truth. I've said it many times. I was helpless. I want the company. I want money. He'll never leave with nothing. Is it really not because you still have feelings for him? I raised my hand and brushed his cheek, coaxing him softly. I lost all feelings for him long ago. Now, there's only you in my heart. Noah suddenly laughed softly, as if he had completed some important mission. Thank you for saying it yourself. I was just about to ask why he was laughing when I saw his gaze pass over me and look behind me. I turned around. At some point, the door had opened. Luis stood in the doorway, his face deathly pale. He had been listening for a long time. Chapter 9. No wonder Luis used to say that the way I smashed up the entire house looked especially like a madwoman. Now that he had smashed up the entire banquet hall, he was completely a madman. The guests watched the show, and whispers rose and fell all around. Has Luis gone crazy? I heard his wife cheated. He fools around outside. But when it's his wife's turn, it's not allowed? Amid the wreckage, Luis stopped moving, panting heavily. He turned around, his scarlet eyes fixed tightly on me. Why? Why did you cheat? I looked at him calmly. It's an open marriage. How can it be called cheating? When did I ever agree to an open marriage? He roared, smashing the wine glass in his hand hard against the floor. I never agreed. When you cheated, did you ask for my consent? I laughed softly. This is called following my husband's lead. That's not the same. He practically roared. You're a woman. How could you? It's fine. I interrupted him. Being able to have Noah means I'm the one taking advantage of him. Suppressed laughter came from the surrounding crowd. Luis's face became even uglier, and he turned to glare at Noah. And you? Interfering in someone else's marriage, are you very proud? Do you have any morals left? You're just a cheap slut. Noah spread his hands innocently. I'm not a slut. I'm a very hardworking person. I secretly loved Jessica for 10 years, and only this year did I finally receive her response. 10 years to sharpen one sword. Who is more persistent than me? 10 years, Luis repeated in a murmur, then suddenly exploded. You've been thinking about her since university? You fucking. He swung a punch at Noah, quick-eyed and quick-handed. I pulled Noah behind me. Luis missed, staggered, then steadied himself and stared at me in disbelief. I'm your husband, and you're protecting him? You already have the title of my husband. You still want me to protect you? I said lightly. A person can't be too greedy. Ignoring his roaring behind me, I pulled Noah and turned to leave. Chapter 10. The city lights flowed past outside the car window, like a river of light that never stopped. Light and shadow flickered, reflecting on my closed eyelids. I leaned back in the seat and closed my eyes tiredly. In a daze, time seemed to flow backward. Back in university, Noah had been the young master who became famous in the class group chat before school even started, and I was an ordinary student rushing between various part-time jobs for tuition and living expenses. We should have been two parallel lines. In fact, that was indeed the case. Back then, I had almost no impression of him. My mind was full of thoughts about where my next part-time job would be. Speaking of it, it was also a coincidence. Although his family background was wealthy, he had also chosen to work part-time while studying. I had seen him at convenience stores, cafes, and bookstores, but the shop owners would always deduct my wages for all kinds of reasons, simply because I was an orphan with no one to rely on. So I had no choice but to change jobs frequently, and we never truly crossed paths. Until that day, when he blocked my way. I don't remember exactly what confession he made. I only remember that he had prepared flowers, candles, a love letter, and even a shining diamond ring, and I was wearing a washed-out coat with frayed cuffs, standing in front of him at a complete loss. I have a boyfriend. I told him. We've known each other since we were 7. We're each other's family. He smiled helplessly. All right, I won't be the third party. When he turned to leave, he gently held my wrist and said half-jokingly, then when you two break up, remember to tell me. When that time comes, I'll pursue you again. I answered very seriously. We won't break up. We're about to get married. And we won't separate for the rest of our lives. Please don't pester me anymore. Later. He really never pestered me again. Luis and I got married, started a business, and our busy life gradually made me forget this little episode. Until one class reunion, when someone accidentally let it slip. It turned out that the extra 400 yuan appearing in my meal card every month during university was not some school financial aid policy at all. Noah had proposed and funded that program through the school, benefiting many poor students. He had helped so many people, but in truth, it had only been for me. At that moment, I fell silent. At the time, I was disheartened because of Luis's endless stream of mistresses, doubting whether there was any true sincerity in this world. Yet, inadvertently, I had touched such a sincere heart from many years ago, but that was all in the past. I thought we would never meet again, until that miserable afternoon. I was grabbing the hair of one of Luis's mistresses, venting the anger that had been bottled up for so long like a shrew. Luis protected the mistress and left, leaving me standing there alone. My hypoglycemia suddenly acted up. My vision went black, and my legs softened as I fell backward, only to fall into a warm embrace. You haven't changed at all. His voice carried a smile. Still this brave. I looked up and crashed into Noah's smiling eyes. I haven't changed either. He said, what I said when I was 20 still counts forever. I've waited so long and finally waited for my chance. This time, can you give me a fair chance to pursue you? I've thought it through. I can be the third party. Chapter 11. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself lying in the master bedroom of Noah's old family residence. Downstairs, Noah was sitting on the sofa in the living room, watching the morning news. The anchor on the financial channel reported in a clear, standard voice, a certain group is suspected of multiple illegal acts, including tax evasion and commercial fraud. At present, the Securities Regulatory Commission has already intervened in the investigation. The screen switched to footage of Luis being surrounded by reporters. His face looked haggard, and under the flashing lights, he seemed especially disheveled. These gray areas in business could originally be treated as either serious or minor, but now that they had been dug out in such a high-profile manner, it was obvious someone wanted to destroy him completely. I suddenly remembered that day in the car, when I said I wanted Luis to leave with nothing, and Noah had said so casually, "I'll help you." I sat down beside him, and he naturally reached out to wrap an arm around my waist. "I'll make your dream come true." His voice was very soft, yet carried unquestionable certainty. "I want all the money," I repeated. He laughed softly, his fingertips gently combing through my long hair. "Little money grubber. Luckily, I have money." Chapter 12. Half a month later, I received a call from Luis. Honestly, I hadn't expected him to last this long. He did all this just to make you and me divorce? His voice was unbearably hoarse. I corrected him, and he has to make you leave with nothing. The other end of the phone was silent for a long time. So long that I thought the signal had been cut off. So as long as I leave with nothing, he'll stop. I pondered for a moment and gave the most rational answer. If you agree to leave with nothing, we'll divorce. I can guarantee that you'll only lose your wealth and won't face prison. But if you refuse, what awaits you will be a 30-year sentence. Luis suddenly asked an unexpected question. Is he good to you? This time, it was my turn to fall silent. Luis, I once gave you my sincerity. My voice was very calm. But after sincerity has been trampled on, it's very hard for it to exist again. After a long while, he spoke. I only hope that without me, you can still be happy. But you destroyed my sincerity with your own hands, and I no longer have happiness either. I hung up directly. A pair of hands gently wrapped around me from behind. It's okay even if you don't have sincerity. Noah's voice sounded above my head. It's enough that I have sincerity for you. I leaned into his arms, my voice very soft. Maybe the future me can slowly grow sincerity again, but that will take a very, very long time. It will really take a long time. He laughed softly, and I heard the vibration from his chest. I'm really envious of the me with white hair, who will be able to wait until your sincerity returns. That was his answer. Chapter 13. When I received Luis's call, I was checking the final property division documents. I'll be at the Civil Affairs Bureau on time tomorrow. There was no emotion in his voice. Can you come back today? There are a lot of your things at home. I've packed them up. Come take them with you. I don't want them anymore. Just throw them away. The other end of the phone was silent for a moment, and I heard the sound of a lighter opening and closing. There are also the letters you received at the orphanage at home. You don't want those either? The fingers holding my phone tightened slightly. Those letters were one of the few warm memories from my childhood. Fine. When I pushed open the door, dust in the entryway danced in the sunlight. This home hadn't been properly cleaned in a very long time. Before I could even turn on the lights, a figure suddenly pressed me down onto the sofa from behind. The thick smell of alcohol rushed toward my face. You finally came. Luis's voice was twisted and hoarse. I haven't seen you for so long. I suddenly sensed an intense danger and forced myself to stay calm. What do you want to do? He laughed lowly. His fingers threaded through my hair. His movements so gentle they made my scalp crawl. If you have my child, then we won't separate, right? I was so stupid. If we'd had a child earlier, then for the child's sake, you wouldn't have been with another man. Calm down. I went crazy a long time ago. His breath sprayed against the side of my neck. From the moment you stopped loving me, I went crazy. You thought I wouldn't divorce because of money? I just couldn't accept you leaving me. Fine. We won't divorce. Let go of me. You're actually especially bad at lying. There was a sob in his laughter. It's fine. Husband and wife fight at the head of the bed and make up at the foot of it. There's nothing that sleeping together can't solve. He began tearing at my clothes. In my panic, I reached across the coffee table, and my fingertips touched the cold vase. Without hesitation, I grabbed the vase and smashed it hard against his head. He gave a muffled groan. His movements stopped, and warm liquid dripped onto my face. Then his entire body went limp and collapsed to the side. I pushed him away and stood up trembling, looking at Luis collapsed on the floor, blood gushing from the wound at the corner of his forehead. My hands were shaking, and I was completely at a loss. But suddenly, I fell into a warm embrace. It's all right. Leave it to me. Noah's voice came from the doorway. He had followed me the whole way. Chapter 14. 3 months later, Noah and I were spending our honeymoon in the Maldives. Between the blue sea and sky, I lay on a beach chair, scrolling through my phone. A news notification popped up. Former president of a certain group, Luis, died suddenly in prison. The report described the cause of his death in detail. He had been sentenced for tax evasion and attempted rape. During the court verdict, he suddenly suffered a heart attack, and after emergency treatment failed, he died. In the comments section, everyone sighed that he had only gotten what he deserved. Another news article immediately afterward mentioned that after his lover Alice learned of his death, she became emotionally agitated, triggering the same heart disease. She was sent to the hospital but could not be saved, and both she and the baby died. I turned off my phone and looked into the distance. Noah was building a castle on the beach and waving at me. Jessica, come take a look. I stood up and walked toward him. The sunlight was warm, and the sound of the waves was gentle. The happiness that belonged to me had finally arrived.